Do you wish you knew exactly how to write a sales post to attract soulmate clients using the most powerful gifts from your astrology chart? Well, guess what? Now you can learn how for free. I'm going to share my cosmic copywriting secrets that have helped people to instantly turn strangers on the internet into buyers for their high ticket offers. In my 5-part training series, Cosmic Attraction Copywriting, you'll learn the mindset switch that takes my clients from feeling confused about their content or not feeling fully safe to share their story online to making sales more easily and naturally than ever before, with the astrological placement that unlocks a new level of depth in your storytelling that builds trust 10 times faster with the clients who are genuinely a very aligned fit to work with you. Plus, the messaging tweaks that take my clients from attracting people who can't afford it to easy sales into 5-figure offers with no sales calls. And you'll get clarity on the 3 things your soulmate clients need to hear from you consistently in your message to feel confident and excited to buy your offer. You'll also get my writing process prompts to share your story in a powerful way that stands out to the right people and leads to ready to buy clients popping up into your DMs asking to work with you. Click the link in the description for instant access to Cosmic Attraction Copywriting. This is Sarah Mack and welcome to Creative Magic Club. Together, we'll discover inspirational stories of creative entrepreneurs living out their dreams, doing the work they are most passionate about, and building wealth in magical and fun ways. While building a 6-figure income as a writer and coach, helping other women to launch their dream businesses, I've connected with so many incredible people and seen it proven again and again that you can thrive financially doing whatever it is you are passionate about. I'm here to share life-changing strategies for mindset, making money, and reaching more people with your work in a business and life filled with creativity, freedom, and fun. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Creative Magic Club podcast. And I'm super excited to introduce my guest today. We have with us Missy Graff Ballone, who is the author of the book Wellness for Makers, a movement guide for artists. She has a background in fine art. She's also a licensed massage therapist, and she has over 800 hours in training as a yoga instructor. And her mission is to empower creatives to add years to their creative practice through movement. Hi, Missy. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So tell me your story. How did you come to do the work that you do today?
Sure. So I first started before going to school for fine art, I went to school for massage therapy kind of as a fallback plan. It was something that I thought, I could do during fine art school. And if it didn't work out, then that's something I could do. And as I was working as a massage therapist and creating art in fine art school, I started to find these parallel interests being much more than a fallback plan. And all of my art became about the body and about movement and the interior structures of the muscle tissues and connective tissue. So after that, while I was in school, I started noticing that all of my peers were burning out very easily. And we were working really long hours in the studio. We were pulling out our backs and wearing out our hands very quickly. And we were very young, so this was alarming. And one of my instructors at some point had mentioned to me, like, oh, what are you going to do about it, kind of thing. And then it kind of sat with me a bit, like, yeah, like, what can I do about it, like, outside of my work? And so after school, I was teaching at a craft center for adults called Peters Valley School of Craft. And I was at lunch talking to a bunch of different makers, and we were all talking about the aches and pains in our hands as a result of our studio practices. And one of them was like, well, we're all going to end up with arthritis, so we might as well just suck it up and deal with it. And in that moment, I was like, "Oh, no, 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 we can do things. You can massage your hands," right? Because I had a background in massage therapy. I had been practicing yoga, for many years at that point, and I knew there were things we could do, but I just didn't know how to articulate them at the time. So I went back to my room. I started looking for resources, originally just to share. And then I noticed that if there were any, they were incredibly hard to find. So and I couldn't find anything. So I decided to create something. So it originally started with me teaching workshops and classes at Peters Valley School of Craft. And then I continued my training. I deepened my training with the body. I started, as a massage therapist, you have to continue your education in order to maintain your license. So I started focusing in self care modalities and modalities that I could bring back that artists could then apply to the artist studio practice. And then I went through 800 hours of yoga teacher training and focused on the alignment and the physical body mechanics of the body and how we can then apply that to the postures that we move in the studio. So again, it was originally like workshops and events, and then around the pandemic, I started teaching more and more online. But then there was like this overlap, right? Of pivoting that was very interesting. So yeah, I've been teaching at different universities and craft centers ever since, and now online.
That's amazing. I love that. And such a great example of how, you know, by the way, I'm curious. Do you know your human design?
Yes, I do. I'm a manifesting generator,
Yeah. So,
non-specific,
um,
which is very manifesting generator.
yeah. And I'm a
Yeah.
manifesting generator. I know like there's a lot of manifesting generators in my community. And it's like you're such a beautiful example of how, you kind of take all these different turns and it just layers on skill sets that bring your work so much value for the clients that you're working with today. And I was kind of noticing that that was a trend among a lot of my clients. And one pitfall, this is kind of a sidebar, we'll come back to your um I want to talk about your book next, but something that people fall into, that I have fallen into, that I see a lot of my clients fall into, is like we kind of forget everything that we came from. When we come across a new skill or a new modality, we become very obsessed with it. We're really excited by it. And we suddenly like stop talking about all those other things that we bring to the table with us when somebody hires us. And it's so, I love how you seem to be really beautifully like weaving in all of those past chapters that make you so, so, so relevant and, uniquely positioned to help your clients. So I love that about your work. And I'm curious to hear about the process of writing your book. Like, how did that kind of come about? What was the process like for you in publishing it?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I talk about the book, just what you said just brought up this exercise that I did when I was in graduate school. There, because I believe that holding on to parts of that story are very important, at least for me. And when I was in art school trying to figure out like what to make my art about, one of my teachers noticed that it was very important to me to mention that I was a massage therapist. And this was really before my artwork pivoted towards the body. And I just kept talking about, well, I'm also a massage therapist. And it was like, well, why is this relevant? And they asked me to draw out, create something like from the lens of a massage therapist and to create something from the lens of a jeweler, and kind of figure out how they combined. And because my MFA is in metalwork and jewelry making. And that was like a really pivotal moment because you're connecting your stories. So yeah, I think it's beautiful to hold on to those different chapters of our lives. And for the book, so basically what happened was uh, I apparently met this publisher at an event years prior and had told her about my idea for wellness for makers. And she just kind of kept her eyes on me and I didn't know it. And then in the pandemic, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I would love, I've been watching you for a long time. I wanted to see how you grew and everything, and I would love for you to write a book." And so I wrote the book Wellness for Makers, a Movement Guide for Artists. I wanted it to be the resource that I didn't have in fine art school, that my friends didn't have, and that it could just help, guide artists in the studio to have them have something tangible to hold on to and come back to. So the guide it goes through different movements, but also body mechanics and alignment. So it's really helpful for anyone who sits for long time periods of time and lives a very sedentary lifestyle, right? Because and it breaks down like what movement is and what movement can be. So movement, we often think of movement, we think of, exercise, we think of working out at a gym, going to a yoga studio, Pilates studio, things like that. But the word movement literally just means to change position. So that could be as simple as moving from sitting to standing, right? Like having an adjustable height desk. And it could be taking a deep breath, right? Like breath work is movement. Walking from one side of your room to another, that's movement, right? So breaking it down to be like as simple as that and as accessible as that to then open up the dialogue of how can we incorporate a little more movement into our day, because some people find that really intimidating, and others feel that adding movement breaks into their day can make them less efficient. But if we are, but how inefficient will we be if we burnt out our hands or bodies, right? So that's basically what the book is about.
Love that. Yeah, and I get it with the resistance to like adding extra things to do into our day, especially for creatives, because we're usually so passionate about what we do and we tend to get lost in our work. And I can say as someone who's been through a burnout and who has experienced a loss of health, like that was the lesson I needed to never deprioritize my well-being ever again. And um really see the value of those like sometimes small but consistent habits that we bring into our day that really create that longevity and really do make a difference. And I really got that lesson because I had chronic fatigue for 5 years and I was doing all the things. And, I obviously at that point, I was willing to do anything to get my health back. And so I was doing everything within my power. And for many years, it felt like it wasn't working. And I was continually seeking new solutions. And then, I got to a day where I was like, oh, like I'm better. And that was enough evidence that the sometimes seemingly small daily shifts that we create, they're making an impact and they are adding up over time and really do make a difference. And you kind of, this is why we need teachers and mentors and like frameworks to follow, because sometimes we don't believe it, because sometimes, especially with the body, you don't always see instant results. Sometimes you do, right? And I know like you have created some really like quick breakthroughs for your clients, but sometimes we just need that faith and we need that commitment before we finally get that evidence and that feedback of like, oh yeah, it's working, especially with pain, because I feel like when it's not there, we don't notice because we're living a full life and we only really notice it when it creeps back in. And, you know, obviously as a writer, I went through a phase of having really bad neck pain until I realized that I had to have an ergonomic station. My laptop has to be at eye level. And it's like when you're looking down and texting, it's that simple, repetitive movement. And I was like going to the chiropractor, going to the osteopath. And I was like, oh, yeah, if I just sit properly, then I don't have to deal with that issue. I don't have to spend time and money going to get it fixed. So, yeah, it's so, so powerful. I'm curious how you found in your business kind of like obviously there's a lot of like fundamental principles that apply across the board. How have you navigated that with, like tailoring to more like specific kind of like practices and practitioners?
There are a few things that came up for me here. Like, one is I like to break down that pain also is not just a bad thing, right? Like pain is a signal that our body uses to communicate with us. And we end up ignoring pain signals. And that's not our fault. We were taught that at a very young age, right? We're taught to sit in chairs for long periods of time. And once we enter school, we're taught to ignore the signals to need to get up for a drink of water. We're taught to ignore the signals to go to the bathroom and to hold it longer. So we're taught at a very young age that the signals our body is sending us are less important than the work in front of us. So by helping artists, creatives, entrepreneurs get back into their body, this is, um, a very important thing, right? To be like, we need to listen to the early pain signals that our bodies send us, because our bodies do tell us, hey, you're uncomfortable, and we ignore it. Right? Your body tells you, you need to go to the bathroom, and we ignore it, right? And the pain signal will come back and come back and come back again until it is an alarm system going off in our bodies telling us that we've reached a painful situation, burnout, or injury. So my goal as a practitioner to stand out differently is to help people get back into their bodies, to realize, um, you know, what like, help them gain more kinesthetic awareness to understand what's happening, and what early shifts can we make? What subtle shifts can we make? Because, like, what you were talking about with that consistency is so important. Like, how can we be more consistent? Because, yeah, like, we can do this whole thing, and maybe it'll feel great once, but we won't keep it up, right? Like, when the new year comes, people are like, I'm gonna do, an 3 yoga classes a week, or I'm gonna do 5 Pilates classes a week. And it's like too big of a goal, especially if, like, not okay, if you usually do 4 classes a week and you want to do 5, that's totally different, right? But like, if you are new to movement and you're like, I'm gonna go to the gym every day, it's like too big of a goal. So you have to work your way into creating consistent steps. So for me, I want to break down movement to be like the most accessible, joyful thing that you can have. So that way you said, oh, I want to do this more often, right? So by breaking it down to, hey, you could do this in 15 minutes a week. Who doesn't have 15 minutes a week? You can break down a video into 3 minutes a day, right? And then you can't tell me you don't have 3 minutes a day. Look at your scroll time, right? Like, you have 3 minutes a day to do a few minute movements. So what I've done is I created this Mindful Maker membership where it's 15-minute segments that you get every week. And it's, movements directed for long periods of sitting, basically, right? It's directed towards creative practices, but also people who sit for a long period of time. So the first like 4 weeks build off of each other and their neck and shoulders, right? Like, how, but not just like, oh, I'm going to do a few stretches that I can Google on YouTube. It's like, no, these are pinpointed to help you build strength in that area, to help you like build a better, stronger posture. So that way you can feel more ease while you work for periods of time. It's also created to like, these sequences are created to like help you get back into your body and acknowledge those tiny micro shifts that are happening. And then we go into the hands, wrists, and forearms and do things that you might not have ever done. So you might not have ever felt your hands in this way before, right? So yeah, I hope I answered your question kind of. I talked a lot.
Yeah, and I love this concept of building strength and how it relates to our creative practice, because I've definitely found that correlation for myself, that when I prioritize building strength in my body, like everything else in my work and my life, just it functions better, and I have a higher level of capacity. I make more money, I'm more productive, I get more done. It's like, it's like the preventative care, right? Instead of dealing with pain or dealing with fatigue or, the things that get in the way of us being able to fully express ourselves and bring our ideas to life and actually like put in the work that's required in order for that to happen. Like, we're unable to do that if our vehicle is not functioning well. And something that I always come back to is like, when I want to take things to the next level, my number one focus is my physical strength. Like, I'm going to turn up the dial in my commitment to the things that make me feel good, the things that literally build like muscular strength in my body. And I think, especially for a lot of us entrepreneurs, especially women, especially creatives, like confidence is a real issue, especially when it comes to making the money that we want, because it all connects back to confidence. Confidence is the thing that leads us to pitch with conviction, that leads us to take those uncomfortable actions, to ask for the money that we want, to, show up and sell. And that's literally like our core at our center. And so I, often remind my clients, like, what can go and do some core work, like bring that into your practice, strengthen the center of your body, and like you stand taller, you hold yourself with more openness and confidence. And people pick that up, when you're on camera, when you're, even if you're not on camera, when you're speaking, like you're going to breathe differently, you're going to speak differently. And I think this is why there's a lot of crossover with performers and people who end up like in coaching and like content creation and entrepreneurship and just artists in general, because we have this insatiable desire to express ourselves. And so it aligns well with, these types of business models. And yeah, I think sometimes we look at business and we're learning new skills and we kind of can feel over our head at times because, the social media algorithm changed again or whatever. Everything's always changing and evolving and adapting, or we always need new skills, or there's always another level, right? But it's so important to remember like a lot of these skills that we have as like foundational things that we've probably learned somewhere down the line, that we kind of like throw it out the window, especially when you're online and everything's so like, we're in technology. So obviously I know your clients that you work with, it is very much focused on physical practice, but I do think this is such a powerful
Yeah,
message for
no,
entrepreneurs as well.
absolutely. Having a creative practice, you're also, promoting and doing all of the things to be a creative entrepreneur, promoting your work, right? So it's like double time. And when you're scrolling and you're like um doing all these different things to promote or working on your creative passion, whatever it is, like you end up really in your head, and it can be hard to trust those decisions that you were, kind of talking about a moment ago, right? Like, because you can't decipher there's a disconnection from your own intuition. And when we get back into our body, we can connect more to our intuition, right? Like, if we're not grounded, if we're not in our body, how can we know what decisions or, are you know what I mean? Are that like
Mhm.
true intuition, that calling that we feel connected to? Otherwise there's a big disconnect. So definitely like getting into your body is just so critical.
Yeah, it's such
And
a
that could
power
just
tool.
be like a few breaths, right? Like
Mm.
taking 3 deep breaths calms you down. It sends signals to your nervous system to calm you down, to regulate, right? Like moving your arms, shaking out your hands, lifting, stretching your arms up, right? All of these things help get us back in our body. So it's not as challenging or as complicated as some people make it.
I love that message. Cool. Thank you so much for coming in, sharing these nuggets of wisdom and really powerful reminders, Missy. Can you tell us, for anyone who's interested in learning more about your work and what you've got going on, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my handle is at wellness for makers, and you can find me on Instagram. I'm now on Blue Sky, Substack, and yeah, and then I also have the Wellness for Makers podcast, and my book is available. So, I would love to connect with you all there.
Amazing. Definitely go and buy Missy's book. Definitely check out her work. She is amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And if you know creators or people who are suffering with pain, please forward this episode on to them, for anyone who this would support. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will see you next week. Bye. For more inspirational content, head over to my website withsarahmac.com, and please support the show by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Are you a healer, witch, creative, or magical entrepreneur who's ready to fill your high-ticket one-on-one or group coaching program, and you want a sales page that will do the selling for you? Maybe you're tired of having a calendar full of sales calls, and you want a sales page that can clearly articulate your offer and guide interested clients to feel ready to buy without needing to talk to you first. Maybe you already have a sales page and people are clicking on it but not reaching out. And you want to feel clear on what to say and what not to say to turn interested people into actual buyers. Having sales pages for my offers has led to filling a high-ticket group coaching program with 10 clients at $1,000 each while traveling on vacation for 2 weeks and launching using repurposed content. Having 5-figure months from sales into my $5,000 evergreen mastermind with no live launching beyond daily social media content. Signing clients into my $17,000 private mentorship program with no sales calls. When you book my Cosmic Sales Intensive, you'll walk away with a full, clear, compelling sales page for your high-ticket offer that will attract ready-to-buy clients and that you can continue to make sales with for years to come. Clients who have been through this offer have created a sales page that went on to sell out a high-ticket relationship coaching mastermind, had 20 applications within 48 hours of publishing, sold several $15,000 private mentorship packages, and even had a 6-figure launch with the sales page and content strategy we created within just a few weeks. Stop losing people with fluffy language that sounds the same as so many others in your industry, and clearly articulate why your work is worth $5,000 to $10,000 plus, even when you sell things like astrology, human design, breathwork, mindset coaching, or energy work. Book your Cosmic Sales Intensive now at withsarahmac.com or via the link in my description.